most of the boys of his age were busy on their PlayStation, there was one in the pool, dreaming to fly his national flag really high. What makes him so different from the rest? Is it the upbringing or a built-in strong conviction? They say all of us are born with a purpose. Few of us are lucky to discover it, and very few of us are able to execute it. Rehan is one of them. Every sports person has a social responsibility and are always backed with prayers and best wishes from millions of their countrymen. Even now, while most of us might be glued to the Netflix and Amazon, he's polishing his golf skills to represent India. His life and his journey continues to be an inspiration. Let's hear more from him in this episode of Success Stories.
At the age of 27, after 20 years in competitive swimming, I decided my mind and my body both needed a break.
Mhm.
And I took the break in Bombay. I took it with my family, my cousins, my friends. I started living a normal life, like we mentioned. Okay, so it was no longer having to say no to dates. It was no longer having to say no to friends. I started to do things that also gave me a lot of happiness. But I found that within a week, I would wake up every morning at 5 o'clock ready to go to swim practice because my internal body clock would wake me up, but there would be no swim practice to go to. And I started to feel this emptiness and void inside that because swimming was not filling it. But at the same time, I was not ready to go back and work hard in the pool. I wanted that break. So to fill that emptiness, my dad said, and through via a family friend, said that why doesn't he just learn golf as a hobby? Because it's a great sport. You can network, you can meet new people. And again, the club we were members at in Bombay happened to have a golf course attached to it. So I learned golf just to have fun at it. But within 2 weeks of learning the sport, because of how competitive I am, and that's never gone away, I was already setting goals for myself in golf. And it's a plus and a minus to be so competitive because you asked me how was that journey. I love the sport, but it is extremely hard because I also have a big ego to understand that I have to start all the way at the bottom again. And for somebody who has been lucky enough or privileged enough to win so much, to start all the way at the lowest rank is extremely hard. And I honestly find it very hard. So on my bad days, and there are many bad days at golf, I question whether I should be doing this if it's going to give me more sadness than happiness. But because of my experience from swimming, I understand what I just told you, that you have to learn how to welcome failure. And over time, I have got a little better at it. I still cry at 33. I still have my emotional breakdowns. I still want to, hit walls with my fist and I have anger and everything. But after I calm down in 1 or 2 days, I'm back at practice. First, because I love it and I love the sport. And second, because I want to prove to myself and yes, to everybody else around me also, but first to myself that I pursued something and I became the best at it. So 10 years from now, I may reach my goals or I may not reach my goals. But I think at 34, my perspective has changed a bit, where I constantly remind myself, which I didn't do as a kid, that if you're not going to enjoy golf, then you shouldn't be playing the sport. Because 20 years of my life has been spent in sport. You read out an introduction that I feel many athletes would love to have at the beginning, of their introduction.
Okay.
So it's not like I've achieved so much, but there is still a hunger in me that wants to do more. And that I think comes from my passion for competing and my passion to play sport. And that is what keeps me playing golf. I would love if I was good enough one day to again represent India at a tournament internationally. I would love to be in the top 10 golfers in the country, and all the targets that I know I have. If they work out, fantastic. But if they don't work out, I would like to look back and say that what an amazing time I had playing golf. You know, I've traveled already around the world. I've played at some of the best golf courses there are. I'm also a travel blogger. So I review golf courses. I've, had so many opportunities from golf that have come up in terms of work. So it's not like, it's how you look at the situation. And that is important for all athletes. There are always two sides to a coin. There are always different perspectives to look at a situation. I can turn around and say, I've been playing golf for 7 years, but where's my Olympics in golf? And be disappointed. Or I can turn around and say that not too many athletes have the courage to start a second sport. Fewer still have already got so much out of it because I've seen so many more beautiful places. I've played golf. I've written for magazines, travel magazines because of the sport. I've met so many more people and I've done so much more work because of it. So there's always two ways of looking at a situation. And you can look at it positively and you can look at it negatively. As a human being, I first react badly to a failure. But then once I calm down, I understand that there is time and you can give yourself time to do what you want to do in life. So, and this is not only learned because of me, it is because I have a very strong support system and some very close friends that constantly remind me of who I am as an athlete. And for young athletes, for 15 and 16-year-olds, as much effort as they make to build a social circle around themselves, they must make an effort to identify 2 or 3 or 4 people that can be their core group. It's not specific to a mother or a father or a girlfriend or a boyfriend. It can be anybody. But you have to make the effort, and this is advice to you all, that you have to make the effort to find 3 or 4 people that are your core group. And the way you do it, and I've written about this on Instagram, I think, is you question whether they would be as happy for your success as you are for your own success. And these are the people that you should have surrounding you. So on days that are terrible, they are your pillars and they are your strength to remind you of how good you are at what you do. And this is not only about sport, it is anything in life. You may look to a wife, you may look to a husband, you may look to a boss, you may look to a coach, but make the effort to surround yourself with the best people. And that's advice that I give at the back of this answer.
Now, I just want to know on the lighter note, see, when we watch on TV and we see the Indian flag and we see the crowd cheering and the national anthem, we get goosebumps and we are like, we're just stuck. How is the feeling when you're there on the field? What is that you go through during that time? Is it blank or you're like, I don't know. I just want to hear it from you. What do you feel when that is happening?
So we are taught as athletes to block out everything around us. So whether there are 20,000 people cheering in the stadium, or there is one person watching your race, it should not matter to you. And that's what we are taught to do, because if we start to hear the noise, then you're distracted from what you have to do. And a swimming race, my swimming lasted for 2 minutes. So that's the amount of focus that you need to have to do well. In golf, it lasts for 4 hours, 4 times, over 4 days, 4 hours each day. So there are so many opportunities to be distracted by the crowd, by the moment. It could be a big race or an event that means a lot to you. Like for me, it was qualifying in Sydney for the Beijing Olympics. It was the biggest race of my career, right? Because if I qualified, I would be an Olympian. I would become an Arjuna awardee. If I didn't qualify, that would be the end. So you can understand the pressures I felt. But because of learning to be better at dealing with external environment, I excelled. And you have to learn to be better at it. So when you ask, what did you feel in terms of the national anthem and the flag and wearing your country's colors, you have to learn as an athlete to let that inspire you to work harder in the pool to earn those colors. to earn the sound of the national anthem when you win a medal for your country. But when you're competing and 5 minutes before you started competing, all those things have to be blocked out.
Mhm.
So at that point, there could be 20,000 people in the gallery and there could be 7 other athletes around you that are competing with you. But we call it, psychologists call it tunnel vision.
Mhm.
So it's like, or the equivalent of what a racehorse, when they put those blinkers or blinds on the racehorse, so he doesn't get distracted by what's on either side of him. It's like you black out everything to your right and you black out everything to your left. And all you see is your lane or your tunnel, and you're not distracted by anything else. So as much as we would love to celebrate wearing India colors, we have to be focused on our job for those 2 minutes as athletes. And the celebrations can come after.
Mhm.
There are many athletes who react beautifully to the crowd. I was one of them, or I am one of them. I play to a crowd. If there are 500 people watching me race, I'm going to race better than if there are 2 people watching me race.
Okay.
Because I love that. I love the energy of the crowd. It does not mean negative pressure for me.
Mhm.
But that's also because as a 7-year-old, I was dancing on stage.
Yeah.
So I perform for the audience. I love the spotlight. I'm not afraid to say it. I'm unapologetic
Mhm.
when I say that I love being in the spotlight and on stage for an audience.
Mhm.
But another athlete may not. He may feel pressured by it,
Mhm.
and that's also okay. So it's wrong to generalize and say there is one way to do it. But if I were to train an athlete mentally, I would say yes, be motivated and be inspired by the fact that you are good enough to represent your country.
Mhm.
If you can let the audience's cheers motivate you to be better, thrive off it, take it in. But a few minutes before your race, when you get up to compete, it has to be that tunnel vision,
Mhm.
because there are so many distractions on either side that will obviously only distract you.
Okay. Now I want to know about your fitness and how about your food. Now, when it is swimming, I think it's fine because you burn so much of calories. I see a lot of people going into swimming to lose weight, and it is actually working. But now that you've shifted into golf, how is your workout regime and how is your food eating habits and everything?
So unfortunately, because I'm such a foodie, and I think we all are, it's been a huge struggle. And
Mhm.
this is the brutal, honest truth, that I hate having to control my diet and not eat the things I want to eat. But I understand that if I want to look a certain way for a camera at a
Mhm.
photo shoot, or
Mhm.
if I want to look good on television when I'm hosting a TV show, or if I want to be fit for my sport, I've got to do it.
Mhm.
You cannot eat everything in the world and then expect to look fit and healthy and inspire a whole generation of younger kids to be fit and healthy if you are going to be indisciplined about your own diet. So for the reasons that I gave you, I force myself to first simply cut down on the total calories I eat through a day.
Mhm.
Because like you said, in swimming, we are burning everything. We are forced to eat more and more.
Mhm.
In golf, we don't burn as many calories,
Mhm.
right? And I swam on an average of 15 kilometers per day,
Okay.
but it's impossible for me to run 15 kilometers on a treadmill because I have to stand and for 7 hours on my feet and practice at the golf course also.
Mhm.
And it would ruin my knees if I ran 15 kilometers a day. So the downside is I have to watch my calories. I work with nutritionists
Mhm.
where I learn how to balance out what I eat and then how much I burn
Mhm.
on the golf course. I make sure personally I work out 4 if not 5 times a week,
Mhm.
and again with fitness trainers. And but it's all in balance. Where I've said this, I put up a couple of pictures showing off on Instagram,
Mhm.
and I've always said that it's not, your effort cannot be sustainable if you are too hard on yourself.
Mhm.
So find balance. I know of a few actors who haven't had a chapati in 10 years,
Okay.
but they look amazing on the big screen.
Mhm.
And that's also fine. But personally, I cannot sustain that.
Okay.
So I treat myself to dessert, I treat myself to junk food, but everything in moderation.
Mhm.
Everything in moderation. So, and even for young kids and athletes, you cannot, I mean, I personally feel it's not sustainable season after season to be so strict. But first, meet a nutritionist who can tailor your diet based on the sport you play. Because, like you said, eating for swimming is very different from eating for golf. Work on your fitness, and there has to be moderation. Don't be so hard on yourself where in the third year of your sport you're craving so much that you end up quitting and then becoming obese and unhealthy. So personally, I work out 5 times a week. I try to eat healthy on most days, and I also give in to temptations of junk food and dessert. It's not that I don't, but on days when I do that, I'm in the gym working a little extra cardio the next day. So it's more about being accountable to yourself. And then if there is a certain way you want to look in the mirror, you have to be okay with it. It's not about what your college friends or your school friends or your partner says about how you look or how fit you are. You have to be okay with how you look in the mirror. You're answerable to yourself always. And if you're okay with your level of fitness, whether it is for sport or not, then you're fine. If there's something picking at you saying, listen, I want to be healthier, I want to be fitter, then that effort of sacrificing junk food or working out more comes from within, right? And on another note, because I'm now not only swimming for myself, I'm playing golf, I'm doing fitness work online as well. It's become almost like a mission for me that everybody who I develop a closer relationship to, I want to see them healthier, I want to see them fitter. So it starts with my best friends, and then it carries on to people I meet at the golf course, where there is always even if it's a 2-minute conversation, it is around what you're eating. Are you eating healthy? Are you working out enough? And that's just because I'm passionate about seeing people healthy, because I can see what it's done for me. When I quit swimming in the first 3 years, there were times when I was not happy with how I looked, and I was when I say overweight, I felt I was overweight for myself. I was by no means overweight by what society defines as obese. But then who is society to say anything anyway? Which is why I said you have to be comfortable with how you feel and how you look. And I have always seen positives from working out regularly and eating healthier. Whether it is your skin, or it is the way you breathe, or it is your posture, how you hold yourself, how successful you are at your work, your level of focus. There are so many reasons to pursue a fitter life. So this is for a 15-year-old, and it's also for a 50-year-old. And at the end of the day, you have to be okay with it for you before you start listening to how people judge you and how you look in a tight shirt or in a bikini, or for your girlfriend or your boyfriend or your partner. And when it becomes more for you, then it becomes about self-effort rather than being told by a nutritionist or told by a trainer that you're not fit and you need to become fit.
Rehan, this is the last question. In this, I want you to bring in some emotional quotient, because there are a
Okay.
lot of them who are really sad that in India the other sports are not given importance. So I'll be asking about that. So maybe you can just motivate them. I'm really, really, hoping that you will do some miracle with this answer. I mean,
So,
wait. Let me ask the question. This is off record. Let me.
okay, sure.
Rihan, we have come to the last segment now. That's a soul to soul connect. That's what we call it. So, there are a lot of youngsters who have casual conversation and serious conversation with us, saying that in India, it's only cricket. What about us? We are also, playing different kind of sports. They are very disheartened and they feel very sad about the state of affairs when it comes to other sports. So, I want to hear it from a national champion and an Olympian. You know, what is your take on it, and how can you just tell them, no, it's not like that, or oh yes, take it, or what is it? Tell me, what is your take on it?
So, starting off on a lighter note, I'd love their parents to take a look at maybe the bank statement of a PV Sindhu or a Saina Nehwal, who are not cricketers, And but sure, of course, while there are a lot of friends and close friends that I have who are cricketers, and sure, the sport is given a lot of importance, way more than other sports are. But it's how you look at it. You can either say that, oh, cricketers are getting too much attention and why am I not? Or you can figure out a way, and I'm talking about federations also, sports federations, what is BCCI doing right in terms of visibility for their cricketers? How are they putting them on television? What are they doing in terms of endorsements? What are they doing right to have their cricketers become larger than life figures for all of us, really? Right? That is one way of looking at it. And when it comes down to numbers, I'd like to tell you that I mentioned Saina, I mentioned Sindhu. I would like to talk about Deepa Karmakar. I would talk about Leander Paes. Off the top of my head, I could name 10 Indian athletes from sports that are not cricket who are extremely successful today because they pursued their sport in spite of everything that you feel is negative around how sport is welcomed in India, right? And these are athletes, these are golfers, these are football players, you've got tennis players, badminton players, rowers, and and all of them are so successful with multiple brand endorsements. And I'm talking about the money aspect of it because I know parents choose sports also around what can be a career for a child. And all these athletes, and it's not 10, I could name 25, if not more, who are very, very successful today because they played the sport they were passionate about and not because they chose only cricket, right? And it's not about success that they earn from just their sport while they competed, but it is also being successful today at whatever they do because of the sport they played and the lessons that sport taught them. So I named a bunch of successful Indian athletes. This interview is with me. So I'll talk about my personal life and how sport has impacted me. I could have stopped swimming after I swam for 20 years and not played golf. But I am a better public speaker. I am more confident today because of my sport. And it's not cricket. I have the ability to go up in a party and talk to a girl or a group of friends because of the self-confidence I have and I didn't have at the age of 7 because of my sport. And it's not cricket. I am possibly one of the most successful coaches in the country, swimming coaches and mentors, because of the lessons I learned from my sport. And because of swimming, I sat, and no cricketer did this. I sat as the only Indian on the Star Sports panel to present the Olympics for 17 days in 2016. And I was a swimmer doing it. So for parents who say that swimming is not important or not as big a sport, I did that. And the other Olympians who went to Beijing with me, one is at an commanding an extremely high position in the government today. Another is part of the income tax department. Another is running a swimming academy in Bombay. One is pursuing a whole different craft in the US. But we are all successful not because we are cricketers, but because we chose to persevere at a sport without only looking at how much money we could make from it. We are successful because we were and always are passionate about what we do, right? A parent may turn around and say, but all our kids are not going to be Olympians. All our kids are not going to be Arjuna awardees and national champions. What about us? Let me tell you that in the 7 years I've been coaching, I have been lucky enough to meet so many children. And the children that pursue sport are more mature. They have the ability of better time management. They have discipline in their lives. They have more respect for their parents, their teachers, their coaches, and their siblings than kids who do not play sport. So instead of only focusing on the attention that the Indian public give a cricketer, while it is fair to talk about it, we must slowly try to change our mindset to what is the value of playing sport for your child or for yourself. And then you can look back at inspiring examples of the athletes I named, or even look at my story. And it's not like I'm showing off about it. It's just an example to show that a swimmer can also go and be on television and talk about the Olympics. Or a swimmer can go to a corporate house like Infosys or Reliance Brands and inspire the heads of industry. And I've done that. I've done motivational speaking for people who are running the country today. You know, I'm speaking at entrepreneur organizations. I'm speaking on channels like yours that are hoping to inspire a whole generation of youngsters. Am I a cricketer? No. Am I ever going to be a cricketer? No. If I wasn't an Olympian, I guarantee you that because of the lessons that sport taught me, I would be successful at anything I chose to do in my life. And it's because of those lessons of being the best you can be, of perseverance, of discipline, and so many other lessons that I have learned because I swam and because I played competitive sport. So sure, you have to do homework and groundwork. That if you're giving your child options, maybe give him sports and 3 options that could be a career later on. You have to do it. I'm not saying go intentionally choose a sport where there is absolutely no sponsorship and no money and no awareness. But give him a couple of options. Don't only give him cricket, because like I mentioned, PV Sindhu is not a cricketer. You know, Leandro Paes is not a cricketer. There are so many athletes. We've got Deepa Karmakar, I think, who signed with Adidas today. You've got Puma athletes, or Puma, I'm not too sure. You've got girls who are part of international brand campaigns. And these are Indian girls who may not have come from privileged, rich families, who are on billboards the size of billboards that you put film stars, Bollywood film stars on. And these are stories that are real and are there today to inspire parents and children. You can either look at it from this perspective, or you can say, my kid is never going to get the scholarship or the opportunity that a cricketer got. But by having that negative perspective, how are you benefiting yourself and your child? Right? So if talking about, if listening to or hearing about being an Olympian and being one of a billion people who is good enough to represent his flag inspires you, then that's what you should aim for. Not, do I need to choose cricket because there's so much money in it? That's where your priorities should be. And of course, for every athlete out there who is not as successful, he's going to feel that I didn't get a great deal, or I didn't get I didn't get what another important sport gets. But what stops him, or what stops his family from pursuing the sport to a level where he becomes top 10 in the world? And let me guarantee you that if you are top 10 in the world and not a cricketer, you are going to be extremely, extremely successful, because Indian sport is changing. It is changing. If you make an effort to Google, not you, but my audience today, to Google successful Indian athletes, they are all sponsored. All their training is taken care of by brands and the government. They have multiple endorsement deals. They are social media superstars. Okay. So I try to give my own examples to inspire. I try to talk about champions that we all know of today. And hopefully that should change the mindset of people to be, yes, you're human, you can be a little negative, but also focus on the good. And there is a lot of good in India today when it comes to sport, which was not there 20 years ago. So if you are if your kid is 15 years old and he has an opportunity to be part of India at sport today, he should look at the good and look at the heroes that we have in sport and aspire to be who they are. Because then maybe they'd be hosting a TV show on Star Sports, or they may be welcomed by 1,000 people at the Indira Gandhi International Airport after they've won abroad, and be called on news channels and be gifted BMWs. So these are stories that can either inspire you, or you can sit back and complain and say, "Oh, I didn't get what I was due." So and to end with a very human example, so many friends who competed and raced with me who did not become Olympians today are coaches, and they are coaches in a vast spectrum of sports. So some are athletics coaches, some are hockey coaches. And because they are coaches and because they have learned so much from their sport, they are extremely successful coaches, and they make a living. They support their families. They put their own kids through education and sport because of being coaches in the sport that gave them so much.
Mhm.
And so there are so many careers that are opening up for you today, irrespective in sport, even in India, irrespective of whether you are an Olympian or not.
Mhm.
You can be part of sports science, you can do sports management, you can be traveling with a football team, you can be traveling with a cricket team, or a swimming team, or the Indian national Olympic team. There is a vast spectrum of opportunities available to parents and children today when they decide which sport they want to pursue. But it's important that they spend that mental time doing research on that rather than on how many crores an IPL player was bought.
Mhm.
It's how you look at the same situation, your perspective on it, that can either be constructive for you or be destructive for you. That's my answer.
Okay. Rehan, so good to hear, like how the journey has been for you from a small
Yes.
boy till what you are today, a coach, a mentor. I don't know how many professions you're doing. Like when we started off, it was about swimming, then it went to golf, then again as a TV presenter, now like a fitness expert. I don't know, you're doing multiple things, right? I,
Right,
I, I
right.
really wanted to ask you one question, then later on I decided not to ask that question because it's a general question to ask a sports person who is a role model. But somewhere, while I was having a conversation with you, I just felt like you are molding yourself to be a role model for someone else. That's how I can see, because you can motivate people. You have something in front of you. You have a great history when it comes to sports. So I don't want to ask that question because you are already a role model for a lot of others. So let it remain that way, because I somehow feel you're born to inspire people. That's what I feel. The way you motivate, the
That
way
is
you talk.
that is
Yeah.
very very kind, and you hit the nail on the head completely, because my answer is, and I'll answer it in a different way.
Mhm.
I never really had, from the age of 7, one role model.
Mhm.
What I did what I did do very well is I had the ability to learn from anybody at any level if they were doing something good.
Mhm.
So I could return from the Olympics and sit and watch a 10-year-old child do the breaststroke kick that I couldn't do really well and learn from him, irrespective of whether he was a champion or not. And that came again from lessons I learned from sports. So sure, I had some heroes from the pool, which I tried to emulate. I have heroes in golf, but there is no one athlete that I would wait to run to and ask an autograph of. I would like to sit down at dinner with them and talk to them about their journey like you're talking to me about mine. But I have never looked up to one champion. You feel depressed when Roger Federer loses. I do, but at the same time, I am not so in awe of him that I forget who I am.
Mhm.
So you're right. It's very kind of you to say I was born to inspire, but a lot of what I do and what I say and the things I write on social media are to inspire and motivate people. But it's also because I have learned to take, everybody has something good to offer.
Mhm.
Everybody. And you do not judge a person to say, okay, this person can teach me something based on his achievement only. You cannot do that, because there are athletes I know who are incredible achievers but don't have the ability to teach.
Mhm.
And then there are some athletes who may not have achieved so much, but they are just brilliant teachers. Their communication skills are fantastic. Children relate to them so much better than they relate to other champions.
Mhm.
So just because you are not an overachiever doesn't mean you're not going to be a great inspirer or a great motivator. And that comes back to my point that everybody has something good to offer. You have to have the ability to shut down your ego and always learn. And I think this can be my closing message for, or advice for everybody, teenagers included, that always have the ability to open your mind and be open to learning from everyone around you.
Mhm.
And the minute you start doing that, what happens is you pick up the good from 100 people rather than just from one role model.
Mhm.
And God help you if that role model goes into some sort of controversy and then your hero falls,
Mhm.
right? So like when I play golf today, I don't have one role model, but I know of 10 male golfers that do 10 different things amazing. That I like to put into one golfer, that is me.
Mhm.
I did the same thing with swimming. I had about 8 male swimmers that I loved to watch swim. And I would watch them swim at every single national and international championship I went to. And when Rehan would go up and race, it would be Rehan plus 10, the good of those 10 people all combined to one. That would make me as an athlete. That's what I did. And that all came from not having an ego when I was practicing, to be able to learn, and having a huge ego when I was competing, which comes from self-confidence. So it's both. And those are the people that really go on to, inspiring and also excelling in life, because they can learn. And there is, in my motivational talk, there is a quote that I put up there for my audience, which says, success is never final and learning never ends. It never ends, no matter how big you become or how much you've achieved. You have to constantly learn, and there is always something that somebody has to offer to learn. When I believe I can be a better TV presenter today than I was 5 years ago if I bother to learn how to do it better. You mentioned watches. I'm not a huge collector, but I spend a lot of my time in isolation learning about the art of watches and watchmaking.
Okay.
And that is my hobby.
Mhm.
I'm never going to get a trophy at the end of it, because there are no trophies for a hobby like this.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I am learning, and it is going to have some value in something else I do in the future. I learned to be a better swimmer. I'm trying to learn to be a better athlete. So teenagers, shut down your ego, learn from everyone around you, even your worst enemy. Because something somebody is doing right, if you can bring that into your routine and your setup, it's only going to do you well. So that's, I think, closing advice from me.
Okay. Thank you so much, Rehan. I mean, it is a wonderful journey that you have had, and you have just motivated. I don't know how many people. I mean, just sitting across to you, I'm feeling so motivated listening to your journey and how you have made your choices right. So thank you so much for sharing your success story to our audience, and I hope you remain in the spotlight forever and bring more, mm, name to the country while you bring fame to yourself. So.
That's that's very kind. I look forward to maybe speaking to you in a few years again, when we can revisit some more success. So,
Sure.
but that's very kind of you. Your wishes are very, very appreciated. And I always say this at the end of interviews. I've been lucky enough to give many, many, many through my career, but everyone is as special. And I was watching a movie the other day.
Mhm.
On Amazon. I'll put it up on my social media soon. But it was a biopic about an adult who used to run a children's show,
Okay.
a show for children. And he was being interviewed by a person from the press.
Mhm.
And he clearly had so many things going on. But he told that person from the press that, what is the most important thing in the world right now for me? And that guy didn't know what to say. And he said, you and your interview is the most important thing in the world for me right now. So I think that is how everyone really should achieve. When they say live in the moment, be in the moment,
Mhm.
this is how you give to that moment of your life. So if you're playing a sport, that should be the most important thing in the world in that moment. If you're talking to your mother or your father or a group of students, or you're sitting down and writing a poem, for you, give so much love to that thing that thing becomes the most important thing. So like I said, been lucky to do several hundred interviews, but I think we spent an hour and a half or so.
Right.
This has been the most important thing in the world for me in this hour and a half. I hope it comes across to your viewers and my followers who eventually see this. So
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you so much, Rehan, for sharing your journey. It's a brilliant thing, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to be motivated listening to you. Thank you.
Thank you
So
so much. It's been a pleasure. See you. Bye-bye.
much. Bye bye.